Tinseltown has always been addicted to quick fixes for flawless beauty, but there is a dark side to this obsession. What actually occurs when the pursuit of razor-sharp cheekbones turns our favourite icons into walking skeletons? Strap in as we dive deep into the buccal fat removal epidemic, the single most controversial cosmetic craze that is ironically ageing A-listers far faster than Mother Nature ever could. Get your snacks ready and settle in, because these aesthetic disasters are painful to witness and unfortunately completely irreversible. Coming in at number 1 on our list is none other than Dove Cameron. Dove Cameron did not just transition from child star to adult quietly. She practically nuked her entire wholesome Disney Channel reputation in the blink of an eye. One moment she was the adorable, round-faced princess that millions of American families watched mature on screen, embodying that classic sweet girl next door vibe. The next thing we knew, she stepped onto the red carpet looking as if she had skipped her entire 20s and zoomed straight into a weary high-fashion exhaustion, usually reserved for 40-year-old models who survive on coffee and cigarettes. The fan base was left reeling, not just shocked, but genuinely baffled by the transformation. The internet was flooded with comments asking, "Is that really Dove?" And let's be honest, the tone was definitely more concerned than complimentary. For the longest time, Dove Cameron's specific facial structure wasn't just a feature. It was the cornerstone of her entire brand identity. She possessed those coveted heart-shaped dimensions with plush, rounded cheeks that radiated innocence and accessibility, defined by that quintessential Disney sparkle. However, around 2020 or 2021, the vibe shifted aggressively. Almost instantly, those signature cheeks didn't just slim down. They hollowed out in a dramatic, almost theatrical fashion. Harsh shadows took up residence where soft volume used to exist, and her once lively, playful features were carved into something cold, jagged, and peculiarly severe for someone her age. Veterans in the plastic surgery community didn't need long to identify the likely suspect behind this drastic change. All signs pointed to the aggressive extraction of buccal fat pads. You see, that specific concave depression sitting right underneath the cheekbone structure is rarely the result of simple contouring makeup, shedding a few pounds, or natural aging. It is especially suspicious when seen on a woman who was barely navigating her mid-20s at the time. What makes Dove's aesthetic overhaul particularly disturbing isn't merely the fact that she looks different. It is about what essential qualities she sacrificed during the procedure. She erased the warmth and the approachability, effectively destroying the face that was supposed to mature alongside her audience, choosing instead to sprint past them into an uncanny maturity. In her desperate bid to shed the Disney kid stigma, she didn't just refine her look. She went overboard, swapping her youthful allure for a gaunt high-fashion aesthetic that makes her appear significantly older than she actually is. To put it bluntly, Dove Cameron's face did not undergo a natural evolution or maturation process. It was surgically edited in a permanent way, serving as a harsh lesson that in Hollywood, trying to grow up too fast can rob you of the very youthfulness that time would have granted you for free. Coming in at number 2 is the legendary Madonna. This icon certainly didn't accept the aging process with grace or silence. Instead, she declared a full-scale war on the passage of time, but it seems time has launched a brutal counterattack on her visage. You only need to take a single look at her public outings in late 2025 and early 2026 to see that the discourse immediately shifts away from her musical tours or her massive legacy. The conversation spirals directly into sheer disbelief, viral internet memes, and hushed whispers questioning what on earth went wrong. This went far beyond simple artistic reinvention. It was absolute facial whiplash. The undisputed queen of pop, who was once celebrated for staying fit and defying age organically, suddenly started looking like a glitchy digital avatar brought to life as if the Instagram filter malfunctioned in the real world. For decades, Madonna actually managed to maintain a visage that held up far better than the vast majority of her contemporaries in the industry. She successfully retained that crucial natural fat volume which softened her notoriously sharp Italian bone structure, keeping her looking fresh well into her 50s. But then the flip switched disastrously. Suddenly, cavernous hollows emerged in the mid-face where youthful plumpness used to reside, while simultaneously other zones of her face appeared aggressively overfilled and pulled uncomfortably tight. An increasing chorus of cosmetic professionals and aesthetic injectors are convinced that buccal fat removal was a major component of this confusing cocktail. By surgically extracting the specific fat pads that are designed to cushion and support the face during the aging process, she effectively sabotaged her own structure. The outcome is a bizarre physiological contradiction. She appears sunken and skeletal in the centre, yet puffy and swollen around the perimeter, creating a face that seems to be aging in two opposing directions simultaneously. The most jarring aspect of Madonna's radical new look isn't just the alteration itself, it is the tragic irony of the situation. In her frantic attempt to freeze her youth in amber, she inadvertently amplified her elderly appearance. Modern high-definition lenses, ruthless unfiltered snapshots from fans, and the brutal forensic analysis of social media users have turned every single one of her public sightings into a crime scene investigation. Rather than reading headlines celebrating her musical artistry, the media cycle became obsessed with her cheekbones, her jawline, her excessive fillers, and her losing battle against gravity. It is important to note that Madonna did not lose her cultural relevance or her star power. What she actually lost was facial volume, and along with it the convincing illusion that one can surgically outmaneuver the aging process without paying a steep visible price. Up next at number 3, we have Lea Michele. Lea Michele didn't merely leave her high school persona in the past. It looks as though her face graduated from university and skipped straight into a mid-life crisis. Formerly the ultimate poster girl for that fresh-faced Broadway meets television charisma, Lea left her fan base stunned when her trademark baby face evaporated, replaced by razor-sharp hollows that had people squinting at red carpet photos asking, wait a minute, is that actually her? This aesthetic shift was anything but subtle, and the entirety of Hollywood picked up on the change almost immediately. If we look back at her heyday during the Glee phenomenon, Lea's delightfully rounded cheeks and soft facial volume were an absolute dream for casting directors. She possessed the unique ability to convincingly portray a teenager well into her 20s because her facial structure naturally skewed much younger than her biological age. That facial fullness was never a flaw to be fixed. It was her greatest asset. However, somewhere in the timeline between 2016 and 2018, that precious volume vanished into thin air. Her cheeks seemed to collapse inward. Dark shadows permanently settled beneath her zygomatic arches, and her visage adopted a lean, angular intensity that reads as significantly more mature and hardened on camera. Now, while Lea has remained tight-lipped and never officially confirmed undergoing any invasive cosmetic surgeries to date, industry aesthetic professionals frequently highlight a very specific, undeniable pattern of facial hollowing that is notoriously difficult to replicate through diet or exercise alone without the aid of buccal fat removal. Let's be real, this isn't just aggressive contouring powder. It isn't the result of a kale salad diet. It is that distinctive telltale dip that transforms a fresh, youthful face into one that looks permanently serious and severe. In a cruel twist of irony, the very procedure likely intended to refine and sophistify her look may have achieved the exact opposite for her acting career, making it increasingly difficult to cast her in the youthful, bubbly roles she once dominated with such ease. To be clear, Lea Michele certainly did not lose her immense singing talent or her objective beauty, but she shifted her aesthetic into a different bracket entirely. She surrendered that natural youthful bounce way too early, stripping away a softness that time would have eventually stolen, but certainly not with this kind of ruthless speed. If you live for this kind of deep dive celebrity analysis, do me a huge favour. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and keep it locked here, because the faces of Hollywood have plenty more dark secrets waiting to be exposed. Coming in at number 4, we have to talk about Khloe Kardashian. Now, Chloe didn't just wake up one random Tuesday with an entirely different head. The entire world witnessed this metamorphosis unfold season by agonising season. While most A-listers enjoy the privilege of tweaking their features behind a veil of mystery, Chloe's radical transformation was broadcast in brutal high definition under unforgiving reality TV studio lights that expose every single pore and secret. We honestly didn't need side-by-side comparison photos to see the truth. The evidence was airing in millions of living rooms every single Sunday night. In the early days, Chloe's visage was distinctively different from the rest of the Kardashian clan. She had these lovely full cheeks and robust features, presenting a vibe that felt significantly less manufactured and refreshingly more relatable than her sisters. However, spanning from 2008 all the way into 2019, something about her face just froze. Specifically, the volume in her cheeks completely ceased to exist. Even as her body weight went up and down over the years, those cavernous hollows beneath her cheekbones remained permanently etched in stone, locking her face into a tight, surgically snatched grimace that refused to soften. Aesthetic professionals were quick to wave the red flag on this one. Natural weight loss fluctuates, but surgically excised buccal fat pads, those never ever grow back. The irony of the situation is actually quite heartbreaking when you think about it. In a desperate attempt to chase that hyper-curated, impossible Kardashian aesthetic, Chloe methodically erased the specific quirks that made her visually unique compared to her siblings. Sure, her face became sleeker, sharper, and undeniably more optimized for an Instagram grid, but it also became strangely generic and anonymous. What started as a style evolution began to feel like terrifying over-optimization, where every single cosmetic tweak pushed her closer to a homogenized beauty standard that she was already trapped inside of. Khloe Kardashian didn't simply alter her appearance. She demonstrated that when you turn beauty into a corporate brand, your own reflection starts looking less like you and more like your biggest competition. Moving on to number 5, the legendary Megan Fox. Megan didn't just slowly drift away from her prime. She seemed to sprint away from it with a surgeon's scalpel in hand. She essentially surgically bypassed perfection. Back in the Transformers era, her face was powerful enough to stop traffic and launch franchises, serving as the blueprint for plastic surgery requests across North America. In a cruel twist of fate years later, that iconic face now looks like it followed the very trends it started, but took the instructions way too literally. At the absolute height of her fame, Megan's allure worked because it felt incredibly unearthly, yet grounded in reality. Her naturally full cheeks provided a necessary cushion to her razor-sharp bone structure, creating that 1 in a million balance of danger and girl-next-door approachability. Then, somewhere around 2019 and 2020, that delicate balance completely snapped. Her mid-face seemed to collapse inward on itself, the hollows of her cheeks deepened aggressively, and her facial architecture shifted so drastically that looking at photos side by side feels like looking at two different actresses cast in the same role. Industry experts point directly to buccal fat removal as the culprit in a larger chain reaction of cosmetic interventions. Once you scoop that fat out, there is no undo button on the keyboard. The fascinating tragedy of Megan's case isn't that she looks bad, it's that she looks completely manufactured. Every single angle is now too sharp. Every plane of her face is overly polished, and every emotion she tries to convey feels slightly restricted by the tightness of her skin. That raw, effortless sex appeal that defined a generation was swapped out for something hyper-designed, looking more like a digital avatar than a human actress. In her pursuit of an upgraded version of herself, she accidentally deleted the very imperfections that made her an icon in the first place. Megan Fox didn't lose her beauty, she sacrificed her originality, proving that when flawless perfection becomes the ultimate goal, uniqueness is almost always the first casualty of war. Let's look at number 6, Bella Hadid. Bella didn't just walk onto the high fashion scene, she was practically carved into existence for it. What began as a soft, approachable, doe-eyed beauty quickly morphed into a visage so dangerously sharp it could cut diamonds, leaving fans questioning when a human being started resembling a museum sculpture. Her glow-up was rapid, incredibly dramatic, and absolutely impossible for the public to ignore. In the early stages of her modelling career, Bella possessed gentle curves in her face with youthful cheeks that balanced her strong nose and gave her a sense of natural old money elegance. Then specifically between 2016 and 2018, that softness completely evaporated. Her cheeks hollowed out, aggressively sharp angles multiplied across her jawline, and her face adopted that ultra-sculpted, motionless quality that the high fashion elite seemed to worship. Insiders in the modelling world widely suspect aggressive buccal fat removal, a procedure that strips away the structural fat intended to keep a face looking youthful as it ages. From a professional standpoint, the gamble paid off as her bookings for high-end luxury brands absolutely exploded. Editorial magazines fell in love with the severity of her look, and the runways rewarded the dramatic flair she brought. However, once you step outside the controlled studio lighting and heavy editorial retouching, the look reads as colder, significantly older, and eerily mannequin-like in the real world. Critics argue that this transformation traded human warmth for sheer visual impact, creating a type of beauty that photographs brilliantly but ages without mercy once the cameras are off. Bella Hadid didn't become a supermodel by accident. She became a cautionary blueprint for the extreme lengths people will go to for the industry. And hey, if you want more unfiltered, raw Hollywood truths just like this, make sure to hit like, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned, because the next face on our list might shock you even more. Number 7 is Zoe Kravitz. Zoe Kravitz didn't exactly have a glow down, but she certainly faded into a world of intense sharpness. One of Hollywood's most effortlessly cool and bohemian faces suddenly looked like it had been forced onto a starvation diet. It never agreed to leaving fans wondering how someone so naturally distinctive began blending into the background of high fashion sameness. The shift started out subtle, barely noticeable at first, but soon became undeniably stark. Back when Zoe first stepped onto the red carpet, her aesthetic was a masterclass in natural harmony. There was this perfect, delicate balance between the softness of her cheeks and that killer bone structure she inherited, giving her a vibe that felt effortlessly artistic rather than manufactured in a Beverly Hills clinic. It wasn't a look that screamed stylist intervention. It felt genetic, raw, and completely untouched, like she just woke up radiating that cool girl energy. But if you fast forward to around 2018 or 2019, the script flipped entirely. The natural volume in her face didn't just fade, it vanished, leaving her cheeks looking aggressively hollowed out. That soft, angelic contrast that made her face so captivating was suddenly replaced by severe, razor-sharp geometry and shadows deep enough to get lost in. The Hollywood rumour mill went into overdrive, with industry insiders practically shouting that buccal fat removal was the culprit behind this drastic shift. It is the ultimate shortcut to a chisel, but it comes with a steep price tag, stripping away the youthful warmth that keeps a face looking fresh. What makes Zoe's evolution so heartbreaking isn't that she succumbed to the pressure of trends, but that she was the one person who absolutely didn't need to fix a single thing. By chasing the high fashion world's addiction to gaunt skeletal features, she actually drifted miles away from the unique singular beauty that made her a star in the first place. Now, the result is a visage that looks incredibly editorial in black and white, but in the harsh light of reality, it appears cold, distant, and frankly significantly older than her years. Zoe Kravitz didn't just lose some volume. She traded her signature individuality for a carbon copy aesthetic. Watching this play out, does it make you sad for the state of beauty standards? Sound off with your thoughts down below. Moving on to number 8, we have the queen of oversharing, Chrissy Teigen. Unlike the rest of Tinseltown, Chrissy didn't play the denial game. She didn't pretend it was contouring or a new diet. She grabbed the mic and said the quiet part out loud, leaving the entire internet absolutely shook. In a business built on smoke and mirrors, where celebs claim their new faces are just the result of drinking water and growing up, Chrissy dropped a truth bomb. She confessed to medically evicting her Buccal fat pads. There was no PR spin, no vague answers, just brutal, refreshing honesty. And weirdly enough, that transparency hit the public harder than the actual cosmetic work did. For the longest time, Chrissy's brand was built on her bubbly round face. It was expressive, relatable, and gave her a girl next door appeal that felt genuine in a sea of plastic. Then the calendar hit 2021 and that signature softness packed its bags and left. Her mid-face caved in her jawline, looked like it could cut glass, and that warm, approachable vibe was swapped for something angular, severe, and incredibly intense. The change was instant and glaring because here is the scary truth. Once you excise that buccal fat, it is gone forever. It doesn't grow back no matter how much charisma you try to cover it with. Initially, Chrissy did what she always does. She deflected the backlash with jokes and stood 10 toes down on her decision to go under the knife. But eventually we saw a glimpse of something you almost never see in the limelight: genuine regret and reflection. She opened up about the late-night thoughts, wondering if the procedure was a mistake. That vulnerability transforms her narrative from a simple gossip story into a cautionary tale. She didn't just post the after selfie. She exposed the mental toll of making a permanent alteration to your body based on a fleeting trend that might not even be cool next year. Chrissy Teigen showed us that booking a surgery date is the easy part, but looking in the mirror and living with the irreversible results takes a different kind of bravery. How do you feel about her dropping the facade? Let's talk about number 9, Anya. With Anya Taylor-Joy, she didn't run after the trend. The trend hunted her down and swallowed her whole. She exploded onto the scene with a face that was timeless, almost like a character from a fairy tale. She was the antithesis of the Instagram clone factory. Those wide-set eyes paired with a soft, full mid-face gave her an ethereal, almost alien quality that was pure cinema magic, not a surgeon's scalpel. She wasn't perfect by social media metrics, and that is exactly why nobody could take their eyes off her. She was distinct, which is a rare currency in this town. But as her fame went stratospheric and luxury fashion brands started dressing her, the atmosphere around her look began to shift. Somewhere between 2021 and 2022, her cheeks seemed to collapse inward, creating a much leaner, sharper silhouette that shocked her fan base. This wasn't a dramatic tabloid makeover. It was a subtle surgical refinement that stripped away the very thing that made her look human. Aesthetic experts point out that this specific pattern of volume loss is almost impossible to achieve through diet alone, especially when the rest of her face maintains its structure. It is the type of high fashion tweaking that looks incredible on a magazine cover with professional lighting, but can look jarring and harsh in the real world. The tragedy of Anya's situation isn't a massive scandal. It is the quiet loss of uniqueness in favour of looking like a mannequin in an attempt to fit the mould of a high-end runway model. She pushed her look toward a standardised, severe luxury aesthetic that feels cold to the touch. The soft, youthful charm that made her feel like a star from another era has eroded, replaced by a brittle, fragile intensity that tends to age a person faster than gravity ever could. This is the silent danger of permanent cosmetic trends. They don't scream mistake immediately. They whisper it years later when the look falls out of style. Anya Taylor-Joy is still an absolute powerhouse of talent and beauty, but her physical evolution serves as a stark reminder for all of us. It proves that even the most strikingly unique faces in the world aren't safe from the relentless pressure to optimize, sanitize, and sculpt themselves for the current moment. If you crave more deep dives into the reality behind the glitz and glam, smash that subscribe button so we can keep exposing the truths that publicists try to bury. Now let's look at Emily Ratajkowski. She didn't vanish from the spotlight, but her face was quietly, systematically edited down. This is a woman who built an entire empire on looking luscious, healthy, and unapologetically full-faced. Her brand was natural sensuality, not the gaunt, starving artist look. Then, seemingly overnight, the volume in her face checked out of the building. Her followers immediately spotted the different cheeks that sunk inward, dark shadows, taking up residence where collagen used to be, and a weary look that persisted even when she was fully glammed up. By the time 2022 rolled around, the transformation was so obvious it was impossible to pretend nothing happened. Even as her body weight went up and down, that hollowed-out mid-face remained stubbornly gaunt, which is the classic red flag that experts associate with buccal fat removal. It is truly ironic. Emily practically constructed her entire celebrity persona around the concept of raw authenticity and unapologetic body confidence. However, lately, her unique features have morphed, drifting toward the exact same hollowed-out high-fashion template she once stood apart from. It is not that Emily lost her beauty, but she certainly sacrificed her vitality. This serves as brutal proof that in the ruthless machine of Hollywood, even natural icons are not safe from being sculpted into a generic clone in 2026. So, before you rush out to book that trendy cosmetic tweak you saw online, remember that filters eventually fade and viral trends die, but missing cheek fat is forever. That is the industry's biggest lesson. Sometimes the ultimate glow-up is simply having the courage to leave your face alone. Because aging naturally is vastly superior to looking permanently shocked. If you are addicted to uncovering the messy real stories hiding behind the mask of fake perfection, make sure you hit subscribe right now. Go ahead and turn on notifications so you never miss the tea and stay sharp naturally.